Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be learning all about Salvador Dalí. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. Salvador Dalí is said to have regularly eaten at expensive restaurants with large groups of friends and paid the bill without spending a dime. Legend has it he would sign his name and make little sketches on the check, and restaurants would take his signed sketch as payment for the meal. What do you think? Did Dalí trade doodles for meals? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Our word for today is surrealism. That's surrealism. Surrealism was a cultural movement that began in the early 1920s, and it played out in visual arts and literature. Artists and writers within the group sought to release the creative potential of the unconscious mind. They achieved this by juxtaposing or putting together irrational images, creating dreamlike scenes that defied standard logic. It was a lot of stuff with sort of free associations to get at subconscious connections. Salvador Dalí became one of the most recognized figures associated with this artistic movement. Our word surrealism comes from the French writer Guillaume Apollinaire, who coined the term in 1917. In French, the prefix sur means above or beyond, while realism is obviously referring to reality. So the word literally translates to beyond realism. André Breton later adopted the term in 1924 when he published the Surrealist Manifesto, officially launching the movement that would define Dalí's career. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about Salvador Dalí. And number 1. Salvador Dalí and Walt Disney collaborated on an animated short film. In 1945, Dalí signed a contract with Walt Disney Studios to create a short animated film titled Destino. The project combined Dalí's surrealist imagery with Disney's character animation techniques. Dalí spent 8 months at the Disney Studios in Burbank, California, producing dozens of sketches and storyboards. The plot follows a ballerina traversing a desert landscape filled with melting clocks and giant eyeballs. Unfortunately, production stalled in 1946 due to financial constraints following World War II, and it stayed incomplete for decades. Then, in 1999, Roy E. Disney, Walt's nephew, discovered the original artwork. He hired a team of animators in Paris to finish the 6-minute short using Dalí's original storyboards and John Hench's notes. The team used traditional hand-drawn animation alongside computer-generated graphics to match the intended style. Destino finally premiered in 2003, 57 years after it was first conceived. But it would seem it was worth the wait, because a year later, in 2004, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences nominated it for Best Animated Short Film. Number 2. Dalí designed the logo for the Chupa Chups lollipop brand. In 1969, Enrique Bernat, the founder of the Spanish candy company Chupa Chups, sought a new logo for his lollipops. He traveled to meet with Dalí and commissioned a design. Dalí accepted the job and actually sketched the new logo on a piece of newspaper while sitting at a sidewalk cafe. He drew a bright yellow daisy shape and placed the company's name in bold red letters in the center. In addition to the design, Dalí provided instructions regarding the logo's placement on the wrapper. He insisted that the logo has to sit directly in the center on top of the lollipop wrapper rather than on the side. The idea is this placement keeps the logo fully visible and undistorted while displayed on store shelves. Today, Chupa Chups still uses Dalí's Daisy logo, making it one of the most enduring pieces of commercial art. Number 3. Salvador Dalí created a three-dimensional holographic portrait of the rock musician Alice Cooper. In April 1973, Dalí invited Alice Cooper to a press conference in New York City to announce their collaboration. Dalí admired Cooper's theatrical stage performances and wanted to capture his image using holographic technology. The artist directed Cooper to wear a diamond necklace worth $2 million for the portrait session. He also handed Cooper a plaster cast of a brain topped with a chocolate eclair to hold during the process, and then Cooper sat on a rotating cylinder while a laser beam recorded his image from multiple angles. The resulting work was a cylinder hologram that displayed a three-dimensional image of Cooper when illuminated correctly. Dalí titled the piece First Cylindric Chronohologram Portrait of Alice Cooper's Brain. And this was one of the first uses of holographic technology in fine art. Dalí viewed holography as the future of visual art because it allowed him to work in 3 dimensions. The original hologram remains in the permanent collection of the Dalí Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida. Number 4. Dalí orchestrated several bizarre stunts to capture attention, and one of them actually almost cost him his life. Salvador Dalí constantly blurred the line between his artistic creations and his public persona through elaborate, attention-grabbing displays. He once famously filled a Rolls-Royce with hundreds of pounds of cauliflower and drove it to a university lecture in Paris. I mentioned the holographic portrait with Alice Cooper, but he had other interesting and unexpected connections with celebrities, like when he charged Yoko Ono $10,000 for a hair from his mustache and then sent her a dried blade of grass instead. She actually initiated that one. She offered him $10,000 for the strand of his mustache hair, and he wanted the money, but he was afraid to send the hair because he thought she might be a witch trying to curse him or something like that. He also frequently walked an anteater on a leash through the streets and appeared on TV game shows, always acting strangely. These spectacles kept his name in the headlines and helped build a highly profitable personal brand. But I think one of my favorite Dalí performance stories was kind of early in his career. In 1936, he went to the International Surrealist Exhibition in London. He decided to make a dramatic appearance, and to go along with the idea that he was going to be diving deep into the human subconscious, he rented a deep-sea diving outfit. He walked on stage carrying a billiards cue and leading 2 Russian wolfhounds while he was, again, sealed inside of this airtight vintage deep-sea diving suit. As he spoke, unfortunately, the suit ran out of oxygen and he started to suffocate. He was wildly gesturing, swaying, ready to collapse, and the audience initially applauded. They thought this was him giving his all for a dramatic speech and, a performance art of some sort. But luckily, the poet David Gascoigne realized the danger and pried the helmet off of him just in time. And our 5th and final fun fact for today: visitors to the Dalí Museum in Florida can talk to an AI recreation of Salvador Dalí on a replica of his famous lobster phone. In April 2024, the Dalí Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida, debuted an interactive exhibit called Ask Dalí. The installation allows guests to pick up a replica of Dalí's 1936 surrealist sculpture, The Lobster Telephone, and they get to ask the artist questions. The system uses generative AI, specifically OpenAI's GPT-4, and voice synthesis models from 11 Labs to formulate and deliver responses. The models were trained on extensive archival materials, including Dalí's written texts, personal documents, and recorded audio interviews in English. The physical interface for the display is an homage to one of Dalí's most recognizable objects. The original lobster telephone was a working telephone with a plaster lobster replacing the receiver. Surrealists just loved combining those unrelated items, but it somehow kind of works because the shape of the lobster in some way is reminiscent of the telephone receiver. At least the old telephone receivers. When modern visitors speak into the replica, the AI generates dynamic, unpredictable answers rather than relying on pre-recorded scripts. The AI Dalí has answered tens of thousands of questions on everything from his melting clocks to requests for lottery numbers. And given the real Dalí's love of new technology, the absurd, and, well, frankly, attention, I think he'd love this new AI Dalí living in the lobster phone. Now for some news you can use. Surrealism was all about exploring unexpected connections. Salvador Dalí and other surrealist artists sometimes generated ideas using a collaborative drawing exercise called the exquisite corpse. I promise it's not as gross as it sounds. In fact, it's a delightful art game. Just fold a blank piece of paper in 3 equal sections. I like to have everyone in the group fold their own paper to start so everyone can draw at the same time and everyone gets a unique work of art to keep at the end. First, you're going to have everyone draw the head of a figure on the top section. As they draw, they should extend the lines just past the crease, like a few millimeters past the crease. Then, have everyone fold the top section back so that just those little lines by the crease are visible and pass the paper on to the next person. Everyone should then draw a torso or a body of some sort in the middle section. The key is they need to build off the lines of the crease without peeking at what was drawn in the top section, and then they need to make sure their drawing goes just a bit past the next crease. Finally, fold and pass the paper one last time. The third person draws the legs on the bottom and unfold the paper to reveal a final figure. This exercise forces participants to abandon planning and control. Your brain is wired to seek logic and order. When you draw, you always think about what would fit in with everything else in the picture, but by covering up other sections, each artist focuses on their own unique ideas, so you get some fun, random mashups. Working collaboratively and bypassing the brain's internal editor results in a highly original piece of art that nobody would create on their own. Finally, the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked, did Salvador Dalí really pay for large restaurant tabs using a sketch? Well, this one's a fact, kind of. Dalí regularly wrote a check for a meal and then made a sketch on the check before handing it over to the waitstaff when dining out with large groups of friends in his later years. He understood the immense value of his signature and his artwork. The restaurant owners recognized that an original Dalí sketch on a check was worth more than the meal, so more often than not, they accepted it and never cashed the check. Dalí technically offered to pay for the food, but he was confident that his talent and fame would leave most restaurants happy to trade expensive meals for even a small piece of his art. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about Salvador Dalí with me today, and be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.